Hello internet, this is Chat Fangirl signing in, and this is what makes a good horror game. Now anyone who knows me knows I love horrors. Um I I do love horrors. I love shows like Supernatural, although technically not a horror. It can get pretty deep sometimes. I also like shows like Hannibal Lecter, IRL ones as well. And I find the whole concept of horror fascinating. And I play a lot of horror games. I've played horror games from apocalyptic style, like The Last of Us, to psychological style from Until Dawn. So among my many, many video games, I have the majority of them do seem to be horrors. Now the best thing about horrors in a video game is that it's your decision. I think, although some games you just follow a plot storyline, I think with games like Until Dawn, where you can actually choose your path, I think that's pretty cool. And it reveals a lot about a person. When I first played Until Dawn, I killed everyone. I was a complete moron and I killed everyone. Not a single person made it off of that mountain alive. Second time I played it, I managed to save half of them, and third time I played it, I managed to save all of them. Then I had to play it all over again because I didn't get all the totems and the notes. And me being slightly obsessive over that, I had to go and get them all. Now, with horror games specifically, there's certain aspects that can make or break a horror game, and one of these is lighting. Now I'm a real sucker for lighting. I love lighting in video games. I was playing Uncharted 4 and I loved the lighting in that. It was amazing. I loved it so much. With lighting in a horror game, however, from Five Nights at Freddy's, where you had your flashlight, to games such as, trying to think of one that only uses a little lamp. Anyway, can't think of one off the top of my head, but there are certain games where it uses flames, so you have the flickering effect in the shadows where you doubt the movement in your own mind. In your own mind, you could see just like a little flicker and it'd be the candlelight, but your eye will automatically focus on that point and you'll be like, did that move? Is that a threat? Do I have to run? Do I have to kill it? Nope. But lighting is really good. You'll find that the most horror games are set in the dark, purely because it's not as scary being chased around a house in broad daylight than if you were being chased around a house in the middle of the night. Same as if your car breaks down in the middle of the night, it's more scary than if your car breaks down in the middle of the day. And that's something to do with our brains and our ancestors' instincts, where darkness literally means anything is a threat. And since we've evolved, we haven't gotten over that trait, which is why so many people are still afraid of the dark. Now, we're not afraid of the dark, we're afraid of what's in the dark. And that leads me to my second point, suspension. The whole point of a horror game is to keep you in suspense, to keep you tense and nervous and edgy and on the edge of your seat and ready to jump at a moment's notice. Which is why the Five Nights at Freddy's series was so good, because you could control what it was and you could see them, you could hear them, and when your power went out, you couldn't do anything. And if you see the eyes in the corner and you're not touching it anymore, you're nowhere near the keyboard, you're nowhere near the controller, you're just like, if I stay still maybe it'll go. And it's that wait, it's that suspense, as is it going to get me, is this my last moments? And that's part of the reason why horror games are so good. Now, the key to good suspense is obviously lighting, but it's also sound. Now, although children's laughter can be incredibly creepy, when you hear people laughing, it's more often not an enjoyable experience. If you hear people laughing, it's often contagious and you find yourself laughing with them. However, if you're in a haunted house or you're in the middle of a forest and you hear a baby's laugh, that suddenly gets a lot more creepy. and the echoes and the footsteps and even the noise that the enemy makes. When I was playing, I think it was The Last of Us, hearing the sounds that these apocalyptic zombie things were making got me on edge so much. And sound is vital for a horror game. I'm actually waiting for a horror game where you have a mic, like that, little mic, and if you make a noise, that's the noise in the game. So if you are playing a multiplayer, for instance, and it's getting closer and closer towards your friend, you can literally go, "Hey!" and then the monster will turn around and start chasing you, and you can run and then like that. But I think that's a very important part. This isn't a game, but Dead Silence, I think it was. If you scream, she cut out your tongue, and then you'd be dead and be like a ventriloquist thing. So a concept for that would be a really cool game idea. Sound is important in any game. One of the creepiest moments I ever had was actually when it was out of my control and I watched my character creeping along the door and I couldn't do anything to interact, but I could hear dun, dun, dun. And the sound of chalk, like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, that's horrible. It sends shivers up my spine. Ugh. I think another thing is actually the characters in the horror games. You're gonna have good characters in horror games. You're gonna have bad characters in horror games. Good characters you want to live. Bad characters you're not entirely bothered, I guess, if they die because they're kind of douchebags. And those are usually the ones that die first. But I think character logic, especially in the bits that you can't control, or even in the plot itself, if the character's logic is flawed, I will just sit there and I will rage at the screen. I will literally go mental. Because although they're in a horror game and they are fictional characters, have they never ever seen a horror film in their life? Do they not know not to split up? Do they not know that leaving the baseball bat behind is a bad idea? Stuff like that, the little bits of logic are really vital in these. Now, although I think characters are good, the monsters or the bad guys are always the best things about any video game. Or even anything. I've always been, I don't want to say a bad girl, but I've always been rooting for the darker side. I wasn't entirely on Voldemort's side, but like I could empathise about why he was doing it. When it came down to Supernatural, I always preferred Lucifer. Although Sam, Dean, and Cass are amazing, and Adam did not deserve it, and neither did Kevin. Just putting that out there. But stuff like Moriarty, the Master, Joker, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, people like that, the bad guys that make you empathise with them. But when it's monsters, like once again going back into Until Dawn, the monster was a Wendigo, which if you don't know is driven from cannibalism, and it's I can't remember what tribe it is. But it's basically a spirit, and if you resort to cannibalism, it takes over. And one of the best things about that is just when do you know humanity for that person has ended? When do they no longer become human? And although you've got your typical vampires, werewolf ones, you've got just plain out villains and evil corporations, you've also got yourself as one. I can't remember what game that was, but it was such a good game where you was literally fighting your own demons. You'd fall asleep and it basically send you into like a purgatory thing, and you had to fight your way up, and there was all these options of do you push this person off, or do you stay behind and risk your life to save this person to keep going and going and going and going. And I thought that was a really cool game, because horror games are designed to test you. The point of a horror game is that you decide the fate. Some of them you can't, some of them you do have to follow the storyline, but ultimately how you respond to jump scares, how you respond to fear, is how you play the game. I can't really think of anything else at the moment. No, if you guys have any good horror game suggestions, leave it in the comments or send me a message. I'm always glad to hear from you guys. I've actually had quite an in-depth conversation with a couple of you guys about the pros and cons of going back to school. So, if you liked this, please give it a thumbs up or share it to someone who you think will enjoy this. I don't want to sound really needy for likes and stuff, but if you did enjoy this, please let me know. And this is Chat Fangirl, signing out.